Hi, my name is Joan Lynch, and I am the Director of Arts Enterprise, a unit of Arlington Cultural Affairs, Arlington Economic Development. In March of 2020, Arts Enterprise partnered with the Department of Human Services to make non-medical face masks for essential employees and high-risk patrons. With the assistance of 40-plus community volunteers and 4 in-house volunteers, Arts Enterprise distributed over 3,500 face masks.
Well, my name is Dan. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make some masks here. First ones that I'm going to make, I'm going to hand make them, and then I'm going to go on to showing how I make one with a sewing machine. First thing is pandemic hit sometime in March, and I've been retired for about a year then, and so I was looking for something to do and some way to make something so I could go out to wherever, and I had to come up with a few ideas of my own. So I looked around for material, any kind of material at all that was clean, and right here I have a washcloth that I had that I could go ahead and show what I've done. And I just knew, I had no idea, I hadn't looked at it to try to figure it out, but I just wanted a rectangle of fabric to kind of put around my face. I'd go ahead and measure it to see if it was about right. And then I knew that I had to have ear straps on either side. And I just tried to be creative and come up with a couple of ideas. So this is what I did was I took, for an example, I took a rectangular piece out of this. I've actually made 2 masks out of this one sheet. And then what I did was that I laid it out and I would roll over each side for the straps. Now the straps can be anything. I have a ribbon here. This is a cable tie, could be an old shoestring. Anything at all would do. But I had to go ahead and pin it down on both sides. And then what I did was that I had this sewing kit that I had for when I repaired some leather shoes. And it's a big heavy needle, and this thread is it's kind of waxy. And I thought that that would be a good idea to go ahead and sew it shut. So I'd pin it, and I had to make sure that the pinning it and, well, particularly when I was sewing it, I wouldn't be sewing it into the ribbon or this or anything like that. So I'd take this, I'd roll it over, and I just kind of sewed, and I would sew down this way, and I'd do the same down over on this side. And to pinning it's a good idea because it's hard to hold it and to sew at the same time. So just a couple of pins, just be careful about that. Now that was one of 2. As I said, I had 1 washcloth, so I made 2 masks out of this. And the second idea is that if I wanted to go ahead and use a rubber band, and a lot of people, and this is the hard part about it, I had to think that sometimes the rubber bands kind of pull at your ear a little bit, but if I made it wide enough, it wouldn't be so uncomfortable. But if I went ahead and I started to do it, it might be that the rubber band was kind of pulling shut and it would have been more difficult, and I came up with an idea using a deck of cards. And what I'd do is that I'd hold the rubber band with the deck of cards, slide the material under it and roll it over, and then I'd sew it down this way. And that worked out pretty well. And I made my first mask, which I still have. And here it is. And this is what it looked like. Pretty simple, pretty simple. But I had sewn that shut and I tied it off at both ends. And it was just simple as that. Covered it pretty well. It was tight, not too tight. And that worked out pretty well for my very first try. Well, I had a lot of time on my hands, so I thought I'd make a few more. I made this one out of the same towel that I used for this first one, and I got some old bootstrap that I put down. And in this case, I went ahead and I rolled over the top and the bottom to go ahead and make it so it wouldn't fray. And then this is an example of one that was just with the cable ties alone. And in this one worked out pretty well actually. And what I did was I cinched the top of it so it would be a little bit tighter across the bridge of my nose, so it would be a little bit better mask. And I really had a lot of fun with it. I made about 10 or 15 masks. I made them for some other people that hadn't any, at the beginning of it all, we didn't have any idea where we could get masks. So this is an idea if you wanted to just sit down as kind of an arts thing and come up with your own creation. So to get ready to show you how to do it on a sewing machine, I have some fabric here, orange blossoms I guess it is. And what you do is that you go ahead and you take it and you have to take the facing of it, which is the front, and you have to have the back side facing the back side. So you do this because when you go ahead and cut out the pattern, they're going to be mirror images of one another, so you have to get both sides. So in addition to the front layer, the part that you see, I'm going to need the lining, and this is called muslin, and a lining on the inside. So I have to line this up on top of it, and what I have to do is that I have to cut it out. I need a pattern to do that. And this is a pattern, and these you can receive. The New York Times had them, and Google it, and you can go ahead and adjust it for the size, faces, and that kind of thing. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to cut out that piece, and this 1/2 inch refers to the seams that I'm going to be folding those seams down in order to go ahead and sew the whole mask together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this right down on top. So that's what we're going to have. So I'm going to take up all 4 layers. I'm going to take the 2 pieces of muslin, the cotton liner, and then the facing, the front and the back of this, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Okay, there we go. Because what we're going to eventually have is that this is going to be the center of the mask right down the front. And these outsides, that's going to be the outside of the mask. And as you can tell that there's like a droops down here a little bit. There's a little bit of an arc, and that's for under your eyes. So what I'm going to do is the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the edges together. And to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and put one right on top of the other. I'm going to sew that together, and I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch seam here. I'm going to do the same with this. I'm going to come down this side. Then I'm going to go ahead and sew the tops and the bottoms. I'm going to put these together, the tops and the bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'll be all set. We'll take it from there. So I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to go on down here. Okay, so there we have that. We have a nice stitch. And we're going to do the same thing for this. What I do then is I take my scissors, I go ahead and I cut off the excess. So I have to take this, and I'm going to turn this inside out, and this is going to slide right into there, and then I'm going to sew on the top of the bottom. So what do we have? We have this, and then we have this. Well, we don't want the outside of the mask to be looking like that. We want to turn this whole thing inside out. Just kind of roll it towards you. So what I've done is that I'm pushing the inside. We're going to put a stitch down the middle here. I'm going to push the inside against the outside so it's nice and flat. And I'm going to go ahead and put this here. I'm going to iron that side, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And this is where the ear straps go. I'm going to curl this down a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to go ahead and iron it. And I'm going to do the other side as well. So I've gone ahead and I've cut out, this is about a 1/2 inch wide or so, and I cut out about 6.5 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a hole here. I'm just going to poke my finger through there, and I'm going to slide in about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to hold it tight. I'm going to sew it. Then I'm going to sew it back to here so I can keep it open for this other half. Put this other side in here. And when I go ahead and do that, I keep it flat so it doesn't twist. I go ahead and put that other side in here, and then I go ahead and sew that as well. So we're going to go ahead and do the other side. All right, so there you go. There's the mask. And when you put it on, you're going to have the part that has a little bit of arc in it, a little bit of curve there, and that's going to go straight on.